Greetings, everyone, and welcome. September the 17th, 2025, early afternoon here in the United States. And I imagine that it is quite possible that you missed Lavrov and Peskov going all in against Ukraine, against the United Nations, and against the world order as it is right now. I want to thank you for being here because I have some video to share with you that I have translated and voiced over, comments, also a response from Guterres and the United Nations. While the war in Ukraine has moved to a different level as Russia overnight attacking railway infrastructure, railway stations, railway transport. This war is changing quickly, even as Zelensky said yesterday. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, all of those things. We appreciate each and every one of you. As you can see here, basically, Lavrov coming out today, and I will tell you he's at an ambassadors meeting, and I'll show it to you in just a moment, saying the UN is dead. We need a new world order. Everything must change. And until it changes, nothing is going to change with the war in Ukraine. And by the way, everything is Ukraine's fault. Let's move ahead. Today in Moscow, Lavrov hosting an ambassador roundtable. Over 100 nations ambassadors were represented at this meeting, and each and every one of those people were able to listen to Sergei Lavrov give all of his opinions about the disaster that is happening in the world. The theme was the Ukrainian crisis, defending the UN Charter's purpose and principles. Over 100 nations represented there in Moscow. You see, they are getting their message out. They are the masters of propaganda. They are the masters of media manipulation. And right now, the United States does not understand that at all. And the European Union having understanding, but without the United States partnering together, it is difficult for them to put that type of pressure onto Russia that is necessary. So let's do this. Let's look at some of the things that Lavrov stated, and then I will play you a couple of video clips. Lavrov said, Europe shamelessly tries to reclaim a seat at the negotiating table on Ukraine, although given the Europeans' position, they have no business being there. So we know right off, of course, Lavrov and Russia does not recognize anything voice-wise from Europe. He says, if Western troops are deployed to Ukraine, and this is so important to pay attention to, if Western troops are deployed to Ukraine, they will be occupation forces and they will be legitimate targets for the Russian military. He made that statement multiple times today, September the 17th, 2025. He then blamed Ukraine for rejecting all the proposals delivered by the United States Special Envoy Witkoff following the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska. It wasn't Russia that rejected, it was Ukraine that rejected everything. He went on to talk about Kyiv. They're sabotaging the United States efforts, and together with Europe, they're trying to push Trump into abandoning peace efforts. Now, this comes on the heels of yesterday's information coming out that Trump administration has approved some $500 million armed purchase agreements for Ukraine through Europe. So, was this connected to that news from yesterday? I do not know. He probably would have said it anyway, but this was the message sent. He says, the United States fully understands. We have communicated to them on multiple times and multiple instances about the persecution that happens inside Ukraine with human rights, religious rights, and freedoms, specifically against the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 100% lie. I have worked in Ukraine personally for 28 years and spent 16 months of this war in Ukraine, helping on the front, on the rear, all over Ukraine. And I have never witnessed any Ukrainian persecution. It is the exact opposite. There is freedom in Ukraine. There is freedom to assemble. There is freedom to worship. There is freedom to choose and to make decisions and be a human being. Finally, he said ceasefires and settlement deals have failed. Territorial swaps or attempts to lure Putin with restored trade with the United States in exchange for concessions on Ukraine will not work. This is why I say today, Russia fires a massive shot at the world, at Ukraine, and a missile or a drone was not needed. Now, let's get to his first statement here. This one, guys, in case you did not know, Russia never strikes civilian targets.
Ukraine and its Western hosts are organizing hysteria and accuse Russia of attacking civil infrastructure. We see that the Secretariat of the United Nations supports their statements and claims, and together they require to punish Russia. The Russian armed forces has never attacked civil infrastructure. Since the establishment of the United Nations, you would probably remember world crisis happening around.
Let's just pause right there for a second. Russia has never attacked civilian infrastructure. Guys, I can take you to a place in eastern Ukraine where they were holding the white flags out, and I have the story from the lady on my YouTube channel in the history way back before people even knew my channel existed, where she's holding the white flag, and there are 63 people in the basement. The tanks pull up. It's in the city of Izum, if you want to know, early in the war, and we have children, only civilians here. The tanks opened fired and leveled that 5-story building to the ground, killing 62 of the 63. The only one that survived was the lady that told me the story. This is an outright lie. Now Lavrov continues about the UN.
Around the world, and in this situation, the West have never respected the principle of a sovereign equality of states. They thought that they are better than others. That's the phrase that you know, golden billion, and that's the phrase that was used by Joseph Borrell, that the European Union is surrounded by jungles, so by the countries, again, that we represent today. And you probably remember the phrase made by Blinken, former State Secretary of the United States, who said that those who are not going to have a seat at the democratic table will be served on the menu. This is the philosophy.
I remind you that he is making those statements directly to 100 national representatives and ambassadors, calling out everybody, referring back to the statement that Blinken made. He is single-handedly assaulting the entire world order, and people are gobbling it up unless they know the truth. And that is why we're here to share the truth with you. Now, let's go. He's talking about Bucha now. Guys, here you go. Bucha. The fact that the UN consistently shields the Kyiv regime has been repeatedly confirmed, including regarding the events that took place in April of 2022 in the town of Bucha. 3 years have passed since the Kyiv regime and its Western handlers concocted the story of alleged mass killings of local residents by Russian servicemen. New sanctions against our country were immediately announced, and I have repeatedly appealed to Guterres. We sent an official letter to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Let's pause right there. Let me make this statement. I had a friend who was killed in Bucha in February of 2022 by Russian soldiers. It is a fact. The Russians are lying. They're covering it up. They're telling fables. And now you're going to hear him talk about Guterres and how everything is the UN's fault. Here we go. Requesting assistance in obtaining information on the status of the investigation. An investigation into an incident that the West turned into nothing short of a global tragedy. In April of 2022, Several official requests were sent to Mr. Turk, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Most recently, in September of 2024, we received a reply only this July, nearly a full year later, and the response contains rather curious information. According to this reply, the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights analyzed our request and concluded that the relevant information cannot be disclosed, as doing so would violate confidentiality obligations to third parties and could jeopardize the safety of UN operations. Are you hearing it? Nothing is our fault. We've worked through the proper protocols. Those protocols are dead. That is why I'm confident with the title of the video today and the thumbnail. The UN is dead. There is a new world order. He's saying we've done everything. We've put out requests for information, and the information that they sent us back is classified. We can't even see information about it so that we can assist in determining the true causes of what really happened. That is what he's saying here in the double talk. If you understand anything in that response, I envy you. But one thing is clear. The UN Secretariat has no intention whatsoever of exposing those who stage such provocations. So you can see it right there. It is not us, and the UN is covering it up. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. Let's do this now. I want to go to Dmitry Peskov. The fact that the UN right here, Dmitry Peskov coming back and stating after now Peskov's statements are coming after Lavrov has had his seat and audience with the 100 ambassadors. He now pushes the Lavrov message. These guys are masters, guys. They work together pushing this narrative. He says there's no timing yet for possibility of Ukraine meetings. He says Russia and the US, we have open communications. He says Russia maintains its openness to negotiate Ukraine. For Russia, resolving Ukraine diplomatically is preferable. Russia defends its national interest against EU sanctions, even gloated, saying 18 packages of EU sanctions so far have demonstrated this. We're handling them. Russia supports the idea of UN reform, tagging onto the message of Sergei Lavrov. He said Europe is mistaken in believing that continued sanctions pressure may affect Russian policy. And then he talked about how highly successful the military demonstration of Zapad 2025 was, impressive in scale and highly successful. Now, the next thing we need to look at is there is a statement from Guterres. Guterres made this statement on the 16th. So it's interesting timing. The 16th, you have Guterres making a statement, then Lavrov today on the 17th going crazy on the UN and Peskov confirming it. Listen to this and you tell me what you think is coming down the road.
I am not optimistic about a short-term progress in the peace process in the Ukraine. Our position is very clear. We need an immediate ceasefire, but a ceasefire that leads to a solution based on the UN Charter, international law, and the resolutions of the General Assembly. The positions of both sides are now largely incompatible. And after the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, we have seen that the Russian Federation has resisted strongly to the idea of a ceasefire. And saying that a global agreement is necessary.
Let's pause there. That's where Russia is saying the UN is invalid anymore. Now we need a global document. We can't sign anything with Ukraine. And the big question I have for you, and maybe it'd be interesting for the comments, is I thought we were so close after the Alaska summit. You know, we're there. But then we begin to hear day by day, I can't stop Putin. Well, now we're seeing all of that play out here in mid-September.
And we all know how difficult it is to achieve. So I am afraid we might witness this war to go on, at least for some time, and to go on now with a violence that is particularly dramatic because it's having a huge impact on civilians.
So there, you can hear it for yourselves. That is Guterres yesterday making those direct statements about the war in Ukraine, what Russia is desiring. We see no way that this is ending anytime soon. On the other hand, we actually see an escalation, and we're going to see new weapons that the world has never seen before. That I completely agree with. We know artificial intelligence, drone swarms, and additional missiles and technological developments are coming this fall from both sides, and it is going to be very difficult. That is why, more than ever, we must stand with Ukraine. We must do all that we can to help, to support those frontline heroes, to support the rear, the government that is trying to make changes every day. And we need pressure on the United States and the European Union to arm Ukraine to the teeth. Why? Because Russia has no intention of stopping. That is easy to see. They want a new world order. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, sharing, and commenting. We will be back at you soon.